Hey everyone, welcome back to Trek on the Tube and welcome to my Star Trek Discovery Season 3 review. That's right, the season is over, it has been for a while now, and even if we've talked at length about each episode individually, and even if everyone else has already done their season breakdowns, I still want to take a step back and talk about the season as a whole myself. No time to waste, I'm gonna jump right in and say that this was, in my opinion, the best season of Star Trek Discovery so far. Would I consider this season or the show as a whole one of my favorite iterations of Star Trek? No. Did this third season drag over some of the faults that the previous seasons had? Yes, because let's face it, Discovery has baggage. But as I said, I do think this is the strongest season of Discovery so far, and even if I do have quite a few complaints, I also have quite a lot of compliments. For starters, let's get the obvious out of the way. The show no longer takes place just before the original series, which may not be a big deal for many, but for me, it's huge. Yes, the ship itself is still way ahead of its time, technologically speaking, but everything else, all of a sudden, no longer needs the burden of an on-screen explanation in order to make sense. 900 years have passed since the second season of the show, 800 almost, since the most advanced prime timeline events, Star Trek Picard. So the tech being new, being never seen before, makes sense. The fact they use holograms all the time, why not? The ship designs are far-fetched, awesome. The species have a new look, a new feel, that works too. Like the same Andorians that felt out of place in the 23rd century because we'd never seen them before are easily justified here. Being set so far in the future, we can assume many people must come from interspecies relationships as everyone mingled and mixed over time. I mean, it's only natural that visual nuances would appear, but whether we're talking about the species or the tech or even the political landscape of this far future, the fact it's now all detached from established canon is not the only thing worth pointing out. The other thing I want to mention is creativity and the freedom of artistic expression, which the creatives of Discovery now have. No longer bound by the shackles of visual continuity and in-universe logic, they were able to do whatever the hell they wanted. And the results were fantastic. From the remote mining outposts to the top-of-the-line Starfleet ships, everything was creatively stunning. Yes, some of the visual effects were a little wonky here and there, and a lot of people will tell you this is a symptom of the COVID lockdown and how the workflow had to be changed. A lot of the visual effects artists were working from home, etc., and even I mention that as an excuse now and then in some of my episode reviews, but the truth is, visual effects heavy shows like Discovery, even pre-COVID, were kind of always hit and miss anyway. So yeah, some scenes were a bit wonky, but I'm a Trekkie. So at the end of the day, I don't really care about the quality of the CGI in my Star Trek. I mean, if I can sit through Enterprise or love Species 8472 from Voyager, then some low-budget blue ice isn't gonna scare me away. I still do complain about it, naturally, but you know, it's not something I hold against any of the shows. Especially in this case, where Discovery Season 3 truly did deliver some stunning CG shots. It wasn't all bad or meh, far from it. And you know what? They didn't just make an effort at giving us some beautiful VFX and, you know, many creative things like creature designs. They actually also went the extra mile and cleaned everything up. I know it may seem a bit bizarre to say this, but this was legitimately the most visually appealing season of the show. A lot less imposing lens flares, no more constant dust or haze over the camera, clearer colors, and interesting lighting. On basically every technical level, the show stepped up its game. It looked better, it sounded better, it was lit better, the directing was more subtle, there were a few camera spins added for dynamic effect, but it wasn't completely over the top like in seasons 1 and 2. The directing is generally pretty solid on Discovery, let's be honest. It's just the style or the vibe that isn't necessarily the most appealing, or at least the most suited for Star Trek. That's the real issue. The actual skill, the skill of the directors that they hire, you know, that is there. Everyone is competent, but the production wants a certain vibe that the directors then have to adapt to, and it's that vibe that I found jarring in previous seasons. But like I was saying, they toned it down for season 3. A lot of the camera work and music still holds your hand and indicates to you what you should be feeling at specific moments, moments, but it is more subtle. And whether it's in episodes that I liked or disliked, I did notice that often the actors were given more opportunity to shine this season, in the sense that they were the ones conveying the emotions rather than either the music or the camera work. The story is where Season 3 struggled the most, I found. Mainly in those overarching plots, the burn, the Emerald Chain. Not so much the individual stories being told, on the contrary, I found most of them to be very effective. I wasn't a fan of the Earth story or the Navarre one, which, if I'm not mistaken, are fan favorites. I know, I'm sorry. They didn't work for me. But generally speaking, the almost semi-episodic format that they went for, I think, really helped the show so much. Mid-season there, I was genuinely hyped to see where the next episode would take us, who we would meet. There was an element of actual discovery and exploration at that point. Because yes, circling back to the creative liberty we talked about earlier, that applies to the world building and lore of the universe just as much as it does the props and sets. And God, did Season 3 do a good job with its world building. Was Adira underused as a character overall? Yes. But everything Trill related was so interesting and respectful to what Deep Space Nine had given us back in the day. Do I think the people of Earth versus the people of Saturn or whatever it was a stupid subplot? Yeah. But exploring the idea of a federation without Earth was a bold move, without Andorians and Vulcans either, actually. Point is, the list goes on. Navarre and its backstory was cool, even if we didn't explore the planet's surface or only glimpsed its fleet in the finale. The political landscape of the future was good. The Guardian of Forever and the discussions about the alternate timeline were a welcome acknowledgement of elements that have been in the franchise for a while now, but that had never been truly addressed. Even the concepts of the Emerald Chain and the burn were interesting and worth developing, just maybe worth developing in different directions. Because yes, it needs to be said, what was explored of the Emerald Chain and how flimsy the science was behind the burn were letdowns. Based solely on the knowledge I have after seeing the season, I can confidently say exploring the galactic entity that was the Chain could have been fantastic. Osyraa, in her words, was but one ministry of this powerful organization. And the burn, I don't know, maybe making a bigger point about the music that everyone kept referring to could have been interesting. I know it was addressed with a throwaway line. And look, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, they should have done this and they should have done that, because, I mean, first of all, it's not very fair, but also that's not what a review is. But point is, those overarching plots and the adjacent overarching plots that came with them were kind of letdowns to me because they were underdeveloped. And then I guess another big issue I personally have is that everything ends with a climax. It always does. This time it wasn't so much a space battle as it was physical hand-to-hand combat, but it's the same thing. It serves the same purpose, which is spectacle. Not that I don't like action or spectacle. Who doesn't like a badass Janeway or a good old Deep Space Nine space battle? I just prefer it when the action services the story, and it wasn't the case here. Ironically, it was the other way around. Those last few episodes seemed to be building Osyraa, our main villain, up to be something more. The show itself seemed to want to take an intellectual route and resolve its grand storylines with political dilemma, but nope, one person had to be kicked into an abyss, the other had to be shot twice in the face, and all of their followers had to get blown up. Wham! Bam! Boom! Mother... Which ultimately undercut everything the season had worked so hard on building up. Characters and actors. Before we bring this to an end, I think we need to talk about the progress the season made in regards to its characters. And no, I'm not talking about the bridge crew. I know there's a big thing within the Discovery fandom. Everyone wants Owo and Detmer and Reese and Bryce to get more screen time. And yes, I do too, because I like seeing those characters, but they were never supposed to be main. So complaints about not seeing them enough are a bit uncalled for. Anyway, keeping that in mind, the season did pretty good at developing them as as well as our main cast and introducing the new characters. From pushing Burnham to the captaincy to developing Book and their romance, from growing Stamets and Culber back into the loving couple dynamic we all appreciated so much in Season 1, as well as integrating the parenthood aspect into their relationship with Adira and Gray. Giving Saru the captaincy as well as adding the new Admiral was brilliant. I very much enjoyed the mentor-student thing they had going on. Emperor Georgiou was very well handled this season, probably the best she's ever been on Discovery. Somehow the show managed to turn me around on not only her as a character, but the Section 31 show as a concept. Rin was also fun. Aurelio was a last-minute addition that I appreciated. Osyraa deserved more, and as we were just saying before, that bridge crew got some fun moments as well. I still personally absolutely need this show to at some point give us a chief medical officer and a chief engineer, but anyway, I was disappointed we didn't get them this season. Concerning the acting, it's all very good. Very rarely do I have grand complaints about the acting in any Star Trek show. Sometimes there are details that bug me with every iteration, but it's like 95% flawless for most seasons. As I said, Yo handled her Emperor Georgiou much better than previous times. I still think Mary Wiseman has her ups and downs with her performances, and I don't know her name, Detmer. The actor portraying Detmer, in my opinion, didn't handle the dinner scene breakdown with as much tact or subtlety as she could have. I commend the show on giving screen time to mental health though, but I'm afraid maybe it was ever so slightly too much for her to handle. Other than that, it was all good. Star Trek Discovery is still not the most science-driven or factually driven show in the Star Trek universe, but it's still putting in work when it comes to representation and diversity. This season introduced new characters and completely let go of pre-established ones from other shows like Spock or Pike or Harry Mudd, and that was fantastic. I'm so happy they did that. That's what puts Season 3 above Season 2 in my opinion. The fact that they did their own thing completely and they didn't rely on pre-existing characters or plot points from other iterations. And that's about it. I think we've pretty much covered everything. Discovery still has baggage, sadly, and it will always have its very contemporary flaws, and it's much more a show based on emotion than, you know, science. It's drama before it is science fiction, genre-wise. But every iteration of Star Trek has its own flavor. They all have their own vibe, their own sub-fandom to some certain extent, and I'd have to say that even with all these flaws, Discovery Season 3 is a decent, very watchable season of Star Trek. Nice and mid-range. I'm impressed, and my relationship with the show is doing much better. I put in a lot of work on my side at accepting how different this show is, but the show itself and the people behind it also put in work, and I appreciate that. I originally wasn't gonna add this to the review because I feel like I say this after every new season of Discovery, but I feel it, so I might as well say it. If this had been Season 1 of Discovery, I think we would all be quite impressed. And for those that have never been sold on Discovery but are maybe looking into it, if you're not, bothered by starting shows midway or skipping seasons, that kind of stuff, I can't do that. I'm a completionist. I can't even skip one episode, but if you don't mind that, I legitimately believe that starting smack dab at like Season 3 really does work. You're completely lost. You don't know what's going on and what's happening and where the characters are, but I mean, it's all done on purpose because even people that have watched Season 2 and Season 1 don't really know much about this new future that they all went to in Season 3 anyway. And the characters are lost as well, so it's fitting. I mean, honestly, I think that Discovery Season 3 is a good starting point. Yeah, I'm impressed. I had kind of given up hope. I was no longer angry at Discovery. I was kind of just like, it exists. I don't really care. But this season has interested me enough to get me hyped for Season 4. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching and listening and putting up with my endless rambling. You're the best. You're the best. A big welcome to all of the new subscribers. There's been a new batch of subscribers recently. So hi, how you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave a comment telling me what you think about Discovery Season 3. On this channel, I do canon and lore explanations about elements of Star Trek. I also talk about the species. There's also original series reviews coming. If you have a species or a certain element of Star Trek that you'd like me to explore, go ahead and suggest it. You can support this channel on Patreon. You can become a patron. A big thank you to everyone that's already supporting this channel. It means the world, and it really does help. There's a light. I mean, these are the kind of things that happen. And that's it. Way to go, Discovery. Congrats on your 3rd season. And as usual, live long and prosper.